Hi there, I'm Michelle Rogers, original founder of Envirotech Geothermal back in 2006 with my brother Devin Winshura. And I am here to share with you exactly how geothermal works, why we love it so much, and why it is the ultimate home upgrade. And so, the first thing I would love to do is thank you for your curiosity and your consideration of this incredible technology. It truly is just as important as the countertops and the finishings that you'll be putting into your bathrooms in a new build or in an existing home. It is just the ultimate way to honor the environment, to have the most efficient heating system that you could possibly have, and also to be on the cutting edge of a up and coming technology that's about to change the entire energy industry. So, a little bit about our company. We have been around since 2006, as I said. These are the four owners. One of them is my husband. So, the company found its way back to me. Originally, I founded it with my brother. And then during the season of having young kids, I sold it to him. And then in the end, my husband bought back into the company. So, it found its way back into our family, which I'm so grateful for because I truly believe in the technology and in this way of helping the environment. So we have installed over 400 geothermal homes in the last 5 years, and we have 20 years of geothermal expertise. Not a lot of companies can say that. We've been fighting the good fight for the environment, for this technology, and trying to get the word out there that geothermal, in fact, does work, and it's wonderful. And we'll go through all of that in a minute. But we've had systems that we've installed that have been thriving for the last 2 decades, even in brutally cold winters like 2020 and 2021 when we had 6-week cold snaps and things like that. The way that we install these heating systems is with ground source heating. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. But the reason we do that is so that it can thrive in Alberta winters and these brutal cold snaps that we get, so that it can work all winter long. You might have heard of air source heating, and that can only thrive up to about 10 degrees, minus 10 degrees Celsius, whereas ground source heating can go all the way down to minus 50 because the temperature of the earth does stay the same. So, Envirotech Geothermal, a family owned business, we specialize in geothermal, but we also will be able to do all of the other things as well. We've got an engineering firm that we work with to properly design systems. We do our own drilling, and we also can help you with a solar install if you'd like to get completely net zero. So here's a little bit about our family history in the industry. So our grandfather, Alfred, was actually got into water well drilling back in the 70s. So it's a full circle moment for us to be back into drilling. We do geothermal specific drilling, obviously, but it really felt like honoring that heritage of our family. And then you can see this picture on the right. That's the first system that we ever installed. Here's me on the left. Here's my brother, Devin. And this just shows the family owned business has been running for the last 20 years. And that's us drilling the ground loop. So what is geothermal? Basically, geothermal is a system that uses the earth as a battery. It's basically the place that we're going to dump all the heat that we pull out of the home in the summer and put into the earth to store it for usage in the winter. And it is the reason that these systems can thrive. Something specific and unique to Envirotech Geothermal is that we actually install extra pipe in the ground. If we say, okay, this house, this is industry verbiage or language, this house is a 4-ton, which means that's how much demand it's going to have on the earth, then we'll put in a 5-ton loop. We always put an extra loop of pipe just to make sure that, God forbid there's anything really crazy that happens over the winter, that our systems always thrive and they always work. Unfortunately, back in the day, what happened with the industry is it was completely unregulated. It was a relatively new technology 20 years ago, and lots of plumbing companies were thinking it would be a great way to get into and make good money. So when a homeowner was receiving different quotes from different companies, they didn't realize it was at the expense of pipe in the ground. And they would choose the lowest quote or maybe even the middle one, not understanding that that had a smaller ground loop than was required for their home. So lots of times their home would then run on emergency heat, which is completely electric, giving geothermal the name that it doesn't work. So if you've ever heard that from plumbers or from other people saying, oh, geothermal can't work in our winters, that is unequivocally untrue. It does thrive. It just has to be engineered and designed properly. And we pride ourselves on designing properly and throwing extra into the ground. While we're there, we want to make sure that this is adequate for the home's demands no matter what the weather. So just a few feet below the surface in Alberta is a very constant ground temperature, even in the dead of winter. Even if the frost is there, we can take a few degrees of heat out of the earth, bring it into the house. It's pumped through the ground loop and then back into the house. And then it hits our heat pump where there's a compressor. The compressor will take that couple of degrees of differential and then put that through the compressor, excite those molecules until they're nearly boiling with that energy that it got from the ground loop. And then if we're talking about forced air, a fan will blow across that very, very hot coil, and that will be the heat that you feel in your home. It's exactly the same process if you have in-floor piping in your home. We still will use a compressor, but that will go through like a boiler system. And so that coil will run through water, which then goes out into your ground floor loop. Again, it's not coming directly from the ground into your floor. There is a middle heat pump, which does this wonderful, magical transition of taking that couple of degrees of differential on temperature that we got from the ground loop, making it excited enough that it boils so that we can either have a fan blow across it for heated air, or we can put it into a boiler system for heated water for your in-floor. So one thing that we love about geothermal is that you become your own utility provider. The reason there is a little bit more of an investment for geothermal systems is not because of the technology. It's not because of the heat pump. If you've ever looked at a high efficiency gas furnace, so I'm talking a 98% efficient or something like that, well, you'll know that it's an investment. If you pair that with a new air conditioning unit, that's the same cost as you're going to see on the geothermal heat pump. So they are straight across, they are the same amount of investment. Where the extra and added investment comes for geothermal is installing a ground loop. Essentially, you need a heat source. So you become your own gas provider, so to speak, because you're not going to pay gas anymore. So I just say gas because we're used to that in the prairie provinces, but essentially you replace your gas provider with your own ground loop under the property that you own. If you have a city yard, we're going to go vertical. If you have a acreage and you've got enough open space, then we're going to go horizontal. Okay, so that ground loop makes you your own utility provider, and it's a permanent energy asset with a life of 150 plus years. We know that 150 years, we can say it's probably going to last many, many more generations. It may even outlast your home because it's buried and there's no trauma or weather or harshness hitting it all the time. There's no one pulling on it. It's safely buried, and the fusions have been tested and done with proper fusion technique. Okay, so it is an energy asset that will outlast you for sure, and maybe even your home. So the energy difference, when we talk about a gas furnace and we say that it's 98% efficient, what that means is for every dollar that you spend on natural gas, 98 cents of it goes into your home. And that's as good as it gets. And that's really wonderful. I mean, that's very good value. With geothermal, for every dollar of electricity that you pay to run this heat pump, you're getting $4 of energy back. So one of them you pay for and 3 of them are free. So 75% of the heating that you get in your home with geothermal is given to you for free from the earth. So not only do you own that utility, it is also up to 400% efficient in heating. And then it's up to 800% efficient in cooling, which is so powerful. So for every unit of electricity you pay to run this in the summer, you're getting 8 units of cooling. So that's 7 units for free. I mean, that's just absolutely astronomical, right? So we encourage our clients to run that air conditioning as much as they want. If you want it refrigerator temperature in your house, you go for it. You're taking heat out of your home and you're storing it in the battery of the earth, your backyard, right? That's a heat sink. That is saving for next winter. And we love when homeowners keep a nice, cool climate in their house in the summer. 1, it's very affordable to do so, so you might as well. And 2, you're charging up your ground loop. And every single heat pump that we install comes in with built-in air conditioning. This is a part of it. That's why I say the investment into geothermal is very much the same as a high efficiency gas furnace with air conditioning, because all of our heat pumps do come with the ability to reverse its flow. And basically, instead of heating, it's now going to take heat out and it's going to blow cooling in, and it just reverses the process. We already talked about this cooling that actually can help winter performance. So again, we want to do that heat, that cooling in your home, and dump that heat into the earth at that 800% efficiency. So geothermal is luxury comfort you can feel. I had it in my very first home, and it was the most incredible, and is the most incredible climate. It is humid, but not too humid. There are no hot or cold spots. My kids stopped getting bloody noses. I stopped getting bloody noses because you're not having that dry flame heat in the winter. And you just walk around in the luxury of climate. It's always the same temperature. Geothermal, our systems are very smart. They have the capability to keep your gym at one temperature while keeping your theater room at another, while blowing a different temperature all throughout the rest of your home. So it can do different zones very well. And it truly is the luxury comfort that you can feel in your home. So when people ask us, who is your top competitor? Like, what are the things that will make people not do geothermal? Sadly, one of our top competitors are, countertops, bathroom fixtures, all the upgrades that you can see. And the homeowner's not thinking about, wait, what about our environment? What about our climate? How about how we're going to feel in the home? So ground source heat pumps, as I said, the common misconception is that they can't keep up to Alberta winters. They absolutely can. We have heat pumps that we installed that are still thriving 20 years later and still adequately heating the home with no issues whatsoever. There's been no replacement on the heat pump and no issues with the ground loop. So we know for sure, as I said, with January to February of 2020 was one of our longest cold snaps on record. It was 6 weeks of below -30 and up to -50 with wind chill. And I know that because I had a brand new puppy that year. And we were outside trying to potty train this poor little thing. And that puppy still has trauma with going outside to the washroom because it was so cold for so long and he was so small. And I just remember thinking, like, man, geothermal does not have any problem with heating in these kinds of harsh environments. So why homeowners choose geothermal? Number one is the comfort, as I already said. Number two is the longevity. This is going to be outlasting you. It's probably going to be outlasting your home. It's an investment that you're not going to have to think about again. You get that 150 years or more on the ground loop, and you also get over 25 years on your heat pump. The regular gas furnace, we're looking at, say, 15 years, sometimes 20 if you're lucky. So you do get those added years of life out of a heat pump because they are built to last. You get energy sovereignty. So you become independent completely of having utilities, paying a monthly delivery fee, and that sort of thing. You can actually pair geothermal with solar to get even more energy sovereignty. You really are at the forefront of environmental leadership. So it is one of the most impactful environmental things that you can do. We'll talk about that on the next slide. But basically, you are single-handedly doing more in your lifetime for the environment that most people will ever do. You're future-proofing yourself, protection from energy costs. As we are in a time of war and energy unpredictability, we love that people who have geothermal are paying for a minimal amount of energy and getting as much of it for free from the earth that they own as possible. And it increases the value of your home. So another great benefit for geothermal is that, banks are seeing the longevity, and homeowners are saying, oh, wow, like, I've always wanted to look into geothermal. And when they see it in a home, if somebody ever decides to sell, they see that as a massive upgrade. And what we notice with our homeowners that install geothermal, oftentimes when they have friends over and their buddies are, you'd think of them standing around the kitchen or maybe around the bar having a beverage, they actually take their friends down to the furnace room and often have beer in there and bragging about their heat pump and this amazing technology that they put into their homes. So there's a pride of ownership with people who install geothermal as well. So back to the environmental impact, if that's something that's near and dear to your heart, it has a 50 to 80% lower carbon footprint than a natural gas furnace, than your typical natural gas furnace. So basically, when you install a heat pump, when we know that the lifetime of your home is going to have geothermal, that's the equivalent of planting 750 trees. I don't know about you, but I'm not going out there and doing that anymore. So, I'm not that warrior out there planting trees, but if I can make one difference like this, well, then I'm going to do it. Right? It's the equivalent of taking 2 cars off the road for life. Maybe you have looked into EVs and maybe that's something you've already done. Well, imagine when you install this heat pump, it's the equivalent of 2 more. So that's really powerful. And it eliminates up to 12,500 pounds of CO2 every single year that you run this heat pump. I mean, that's pretty powerful. I know that we're just regular people, and sometimes we can get into that thinking of, what can we really do for this environment? How can we really honor the earth that's our home? And this is a really great way to do so. And sadly, a lot of people don't know about geothermal yet. Maybe you have heard about it recently, or maybe you've known about it for a while. The most common feedback we get from people is, oh, I didn't even know you could do that in a home. And I'm thinking, we're like 30, 40 years into this technology, and there is not enough word out there about the power of geothermal and the fact that it can heat and cool homes in the most brutal of conditions, including heat domes. So we really appreciate you being here and helping us spread the word and do this good work in the world. So a little bit about the different types of ground loops. We can either do a vertical loop if there's not enough space. So you can see here a small city yard. We did drill there, and then we are going to trench those holes together and bring it into the house in this existing home. So people are always surprised in the small amount of space we're able to install geothermal. We'll come in, we take your natural gas furnace out, we replace it with the geothermal heat pump. That's going to be night and day different for you when you walk in there. It's just humming. It's so quiet. The climate in your home is going to become absolute perfection. And we can, in fact, do this on a city lot. Okay, so we'll do this even on acreages that don't have a ton of open space. We can put the loop underneath a garage. We can put it underneath a driveway. We can put it wherever there is space. And that makes it really doable for anybody. And then we can do horizontal ground loops. Now, the loop on the left here is an open pit loop. We don't do that very often, but this particular farmer wanted to excavate his own loop, and he just felt it was easier to do a pit. So he did that, but we usually do it, as you see on the right, with trenches. So we'll do a few trenches, and then we'll bring those all together. And this is great for rural properties and things like that. It's about 25% less cost overall if you do have the space for horizontal, and it just makes it a lot more doable for the average homeowner. So geothermal versus traditional HVAC longevity, I did touch on this a little bit. Gas HVAC is 15 to 20 years and no built-in AC. You're paying a monthly utility for life, and you do have that 12,500 pounds of carbon emissions per year, depending on the efficiency of your furnace for sure. Then you've got your geothermal heat pump. You're getting 25 plus years on that heat pump. It does have built-in AC. It eliminates 12,500 pounds of CO2 every year and is the equivalent of planting 750 trees or taking 2 cars off the road. And then the loop itself is a cash flowing asset. That is your cash flowing asset for the rest of your life and the rest of that property's life when you sell it one day. Okay. Or if you sell it one day, or, maybe your kids take over the property one day. And it eliminates natural gas completely. You become energy sovereign. You own your own heat source, and that's going to last well over 150 years. So as I said, investments that take a basic house into a custom luxury experience, you know that flooring and bathroom finishes and countertops and beautiful fireplaces and kitchen upgraded appliances are all, and exterior finishes, hardy board and brick and all those things are beautiful luxury touches on a house. But we want to share with you a premium climate is right in there with that same set of investments. And you will feel it and feel that comfort every day for the lifetime of your home. And I promise you, you will love it and think of it as good thing we actually added that on to the other luxury touches we were doing on our home build. Now, if you're not building, maybe it is going along with some renovations you're doing, and you're like, you know what, while we're at it, while we have this HELOC, this home line of credit, we're going to actually upgrade our climate as well, because that is important to us and we want to be sustainable. We want to leave a legacy. And so just a little bit about our industry involvement. Envirotech Geothermal is very proud of our industry advocacy. We're constantly out there joining boards. Our very own Steve Oslansky, one of the owners, is on a lot of these boards and is consulting constantly with how we can protect the industry, how we can improve the perception of geothermal, and how we can get the word out there about geothermal. So we're a member of the Edmonton Construction Association, Ontario Geothermal Association. We have core safety certification. We're a member of BUILD. We are a member of WCGO and the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, IGSHPA. And we're very proud of those associations. It shows our commitment to quality and integrity.
Well, I think one of the things about our home that's special is the heating and cooling and how effective it is. District energy system, which provides us the temperature to have heat in the winter and cold air in the summer. And it works fantastic. The first day we actually moved into our house or took possession of it, it was a heat wave. And we walked into the house and it was like walking into a walk-in freezer. It was astounding. I never have forgotten that moment. And the system itself has been incredibly reliable since then. We've experienced no problems. Hot in the winter, cool in the summer.
It's exactly the same in winter and summer.
So that's just a little client testimonial I wanted to share with you. There's another one there. They're saying very much the same things. Like, their dog actually asks to go outside because sometimes it's too cold in the house and it wants to warm up on the deck. And that'd be their only thing they've noticed to the negative. But they like the climate for themselves, and they don't feel any guilt keeping their house that cool. And sometimes when you really care about the environment, air conditioning can feel like a bit of a conflicted issue. Whereas with geothermal, you're just absolutely charging up your loop and you're doing a good thing for the environment. You're making sure the heat in your home isn't wasted. And so a little bit more of our client reviews. We have been around 20 years. We do pride ourselves on customer care and white glove customer service. And I just wanted to show that we are a company with an excellent reputation and commitment to quality and longevity of our systems. So the next steps, basically, you're watching this, you're like, okay, maybe I do want to get a quote. If you haven't already done our quiz, I'm going to have that linked below this video. And you can go in and just enter a little bit of information about your specific property, and it will spit out a budgetary figure, an investment value that would be about what you would be looking at for your home. But reach out to us, have a conversation with us. We love talking to people. We love, going through any of your specific concerns about your specific property. And let's start talking about how we can get this technology into your home and have one more home that is off the grid and, has its own energy sovereignty. So thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you reach out to us soon. I've included our phone number below as well.